And
Perfect.
welcome to the dating game with Troy Francis, with myself, Troy Francis, dating coach for over a decade. I've helped thousands of men all over the planet to improve their dating lives. And let's face it, it's pretty tough out there. So, that's what this channel is all about, really, just getting into the nitty gritty of the dating scene and trying to figure out what's going on. Now, today, and with no further ado, I'm going to bring her in now. We have a very special guest here, which is Sukaina. So, Sukaina, obviously, we've met a few times before. We've been on Pearl's show predominantly. We were on quite a full-on show the other night with the Fresh and Fit guys as well. But anyway, if you wanted to just sort of like introduce yourself to the guys and to sort of let them know what you do and what you're all about, really.
Yeah, sure. Well, my name's Sukaina. I'm an entertainment showbiz journalist and TV presenter, also content creator. Yeah, we have obviously connected through the podcasts, and that's me.
Yeah,
So
you do, because obviously you do social media, right? But you also do quite a lot of like showbiz type stuff as well. Is that correct? So I'm just trying to figure out this chair here.
I'm a showbiz reporter. I work for The Sun at the moment.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
So do lots of showbiz stuff, lots of celebrity news. Obviously, I'm a red carpet host as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just sort of all over, really.
Good stuff. Living the life. Living the glam London life.
Living the glam London life. Yeah.
Where are you from originally, though? Were you born here or were you born overseas?
No, I was born in Marbella.
Oh, okay.
And my parents are Moroccan.
Cool. Okay, yeah. And you were in Morocco, I think, fairly recently, weren't you, on vacation?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was in Marrakesh for my birthday. Yeah, it was fun.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, look, I mean, there's so much that we could talk about, and I think we're gonna go for about a fairly short talk today, but hopefully we can do some more stuff in the future. I mean, there's just so much to talk about, and it's really great that you've come on because obviously, as a guy, I'm sitting here, I'm talking about this dating stuff the whole time, but it's really great to get women in as well, to get sort of female opinions on different things. I mean, what I actually called the stream was finding out what modern women really want from men, which is a very broad question, but in a single sentence, what do modern women want from men? Is the answer everything, or what are your initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, first of all, that's a really good question, because I think a lot of women are very confused at the moment about what they actually want, because we used to think that we just wanted sort of stability.
Yeah.
Security, and security is also, emotional goes into that as well. So we wanted financial security and we wanted emotional security. And I think at the moment, the way women's standards are, they're very high. So it's almost like no man is kind of good enough for us anymore. That's really the reason we have right now, because women have bossed up so much and leveled up and elevated so much in society that most men are just not cutting it anymore.
Yeah.
So the list keeps getting higher and higher for women.
Yeah. I mean, I know we sort of touched on this stuff the other night, but I mean, if we just take it down to, say, the financial side of things for a moment, because a lot of guys, they'll talk about money and money being important. I mean, I forget what your answer was, but I mean, would you be happy to date somebody who maybe earned less than you, or would that not really work for you long term, do you think?
No, I mean, I'm very open about this. I would not date someone who earns less than me, just because I know the type of life that I want to have.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm going to have to stop working and be like a full-time mum.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm with a man that can really look after me and provide and make sure that I'm looked after. So for me, dating someone that earns less than me is not the right move to know.
Yeah, fair enough. And and it's a kind of a good place to start, but I think all of this stuff is so nuanced, because on the one hand, like you said, that sort of falls into the provider side of things theoretically, because the guy he's got money, he can take care of you, he can take care of any of the children. So sometimes guys will look at this stuff and they'll be very black and white. So they'll think, okay, so this guy is kind of a provider, but he's a beta provider because he's just bringing the money to the table. And then there's these guys over here who are the chads, who they don't necessarily have to have money, but women want to have sex with them anyway because they're really hot, basically. But of course, the reality of the matter is that increasing, well, there are a pool of men who kind of have both, right? And really, I suppose those are the women those are the guys that the women are all fighting over, perhaps.
Yes, exactly. That's what we're seeing right now, especially in modern dating. We're seeing that it's sort of like the high value men.
Yeah,
it's the high value alpha male, dominant type, high performing males. They're the ones that are getting the women, because the other men, they have what we call feminine energy. A lot of these men are kind of like, well, what do you bring to the table? And sort of the type of man who asks a woman, what do you bring to the table, is someone who is perhaps not fully in his masculine energy, because a traditional man just sort of knows his role and knows that, you know, he's expected to take care of the woman. So he doesn't even ask the woman, you know, what are you actually bringing to the table? He doesn't want any financial income from her.
Yeah. Is that a question that you found a little bit, I don't want to say triggering, but is that a question that sort of annoyed you? Because I've seen that question around a bit recently on some of these podcasts, you know, saying, well, okay, what do you bring to the table? And it's
an awful question.
Yeah. I mean, I from the financial point of view, I see where you're coming from, because I don't think, I think you're, broadly, I agree with you. I think the guy should step up. I'm not saying in a sort of beta way, but I think the guy should have his shit together so that he is able to take care of the woman. Now, if she then chooses to go out and work or do whatever she wants to do, okay, that's fine. But I think part of, and again, I'm probably going to get flamed when people watch this in the comments or whatever, and I'm not saying this in a simpy way, but I do think that part of being the total package is having that financial aspect to it as well. I do think that's important, and I can see why women would want that. But again, you see, guys tend to be very black and white, and they sort of think, okay, so what you're saying is basically just attract gold diggers and have money and not have, and really what men need to do, in my view, is kind of have everything, right? You need to get the money side of things sorted out, but you've got to try and get the riz and all the other side of it as well.
Absolutely, because what we have at the moment is we have a lot of men that are kind of, okay, fine, they're high performing, high achieving, you know, they've got the money, but then they haven't got the energy, they haven't got the chat, charisma, they perhaps have weak boundaries. That's very unattractive to women.
Yeah, exactly. So we were talking about this the other night, weren't we? And I mean, when you talk about boundaries, what do you mean specifically?
I think every man needs to have a list of non-negotiables. I think a man has to have strong boundaries, things that he's willing to take and things that he's willing not to take. And if someone was to do something, he would be willing to walk away. And the woman needs to know that. He needs to make that known with his energy, with his words. A woman needs to know that she can't walk all over you. Yeah,
and I would imagine that you would be able to sense that almost from the first date, or probably from the first meeting, right? Is that something that you just get that vibe, like, straight off the bat?
Yeah, of course. And the problem is with some, and this is why I don't really like that sort of term of nice guys, because we do have these nice guys, but women don't want nice guys. Women want good guys. Women want men with very strong boundaries who they feel, okay, I respect, he's able to take care of me, he's able to look after me, but he's also not someone that I can just walk all over. He's not a wet wipe.
Yeah.
He's not a man. He's not a yes man.
It's interesting because in theory you would think the two things went together, because in theory you would think, okay, so the guy who is like, you know, like an A-type personality, let's say, somebody who's a go-getter, he's out there, he's on his business, he's making money, etc., etc. You would imagine that dude would also fill the criteria of the other alpha parts of the puzzle, but actually that's not always necessarily the case, particularly now. And Michael Sartain, I saw, was talking about this on a podcast a while back with Rollo, particularly now, because to be honest, you know, you can be a bit of a geek and you can make a shitload of money if you're in tech or something like that. You can actually be a bit of a nerd and then become very successful financially, but it doesn't mean that you've necessarily got the other attributes. And Michael Sartain, and I think this point was correct, said the problem with that is that psychology hasn't caught up yet. You know, like female psychology is we're still all kind of like in caveman times in our heads. So it's kind of like, yes, you could say, okay, the tech geek who's a bit of a nerd, but he's making a lot of money, he is the alpha male now. But that's not what women viscerally respond to, or it doesn't seem to be.
No, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, what you'll get is the woman might tolerate the geeky guy
Mm.
for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
He is taking care of her because he has got the money. He is, you know, treating her, whatever. So she'll tolerate him for a short amount of time. But then the minute the one who's got money, high value, is alpha, is dominant, does have boundaries, she is a bit fearful from him a tiny bit, she will go for that guy. Because that's really what women want deep down.
It's interesting, like, to say.
That's why women, the toxic guys who, okay, they're not the high value men, they don't have a lot of money, but they're toxic, they also get women.
Yeah, exactly.
Because toxic men are very unpredictable.
Yes.
They're not, you know, just letting the woman walk all over them. And women find that attractive. That's why they'll pick those men. Yeah,
I mean, so I heard it recently said, maybe you agree with this, maybe not, that one of the problems we got here is that female, like, hypergamy, let's say. So that is to say, if we accept that women like to date equally or ideally, you know, higher than them, or what they perceive to be higher, the problem with that is it's a bit of a movable feast, because on one level that could be money, but then on another level that could also be like, is he, you know, it could be looks, or it could be like social dominance or something like that. And I think one of the problems is that it's going to be very rare for a guy to have all of those things covered off. So she might get with the super rich guy for a while, but he's a little bit of a, you know, he's a bit of a nerd, whatever. So she's with him for a while because he's got the money. But then, you know, it's the classic thing they always talk about, the pool boy over here who hasn't got the money, but he's jacked and he's got this alpha kind of cockiness about him. Suddenly she's like, oh, that looks good, you know. And then she kind of goes over to that for a bit because that's satisfying a different sort of criteria.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why we have this problem, because, you know, the women, I mean, ideally, if you asked a woman really what she wanted, she'd want the alpha male, the toxic one, but she'd also want him to come with the financial security. But of course, you know, in life, we don't always get everything. So we do end up with the men who maybe have money, but the personality is not quite there. You know, the energy is not quite there.
Yeah, exactly. So what trumps it in the end, or is it partly about age and stage of life and all that kind of stuff? Because, you know, we don't have to go into massive details, but I know you were talking about, you know, a relationship that you've come out of fairly recently and stuff like that. And, you know, do you think ultimately, I mean, it seems to me that ultimately for women, it is the emotion, you know, it's what she's feeling when she's with that guy that is the ultimate thing. But I guess at some point, people then make a compromise, perhaps, you know, and she's, well, you know, he's okay, he's going to provide me with a good lifestyle, so let's just settle here, right?
Yes. So I think it really does come down to age for a woman. I think that plays a massive role in her decision making. Because, you know, this whole thing of like women, when they reach a certain age, the value drops a bit, you know, in the sexual market drops, right? That's what we've been told our whole lives. So that is in the back of women's minds when they are making these decisions. And so what happens is a lot of the time, you'll get sort of women who are sort of in their late 20s. They perhaps went through a series of the toxic, dominant, alpha, typical, you know, toxic masculinity type men. And now they're kind of fed up. They're exhausted. They maybe have trauma from the manipulation, from the gaslighting, all kinds of stuff. So now they want to find that nice guy who also has money. And so they will take that guy, although he doesn't have that bite to him.
Yes.
And, you know, he doesn't have that type of energy they really do desire, but they'll take him and they'll tolerate him because now they've reached a certain age where it's like, okay, I need to find, we call it the golden retriever boy. So that's the new term that women use now. They're like, find yourself a golden retriever. Well, a golden retriever is essentially, he's the nice guy, but he's got money and he will do everything he can to make you happy.
So yeah, no, I get that. But the only problem with that is if on some kind of like deeper, like visceral level, she's with the guy because it works, but she's not really feeling it, then doesn't that spell problems down the road? Because at some point she's like, actually, do you know what? And that's, I guess, why a lot of these divorces are perhaps happening, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because I think, I mean, it's definitely, it's a human thing. Like we want what we can't have.
True.
And when the thing is with these toxic and dominant men is that sometimes we feel like we can't get them. Or when we get them, it feels like a bit of a prize. It feels like, we've conquered something. Oh, like I got him. He's finally replying to my text. He's finally making effort. And so this is a human thing. We all want what we can't have. And the problem is with the nice guy is that he just sort of turns up, hands everything to you on the plate. He's not unpredictable. You know what you're getting with him. He's there from the beginning to the end. He's never going to leave. No matter what you do to him, he's not going to leave. He has weak boundaries. And women do not like that.
Yeah. It's so fascinating because I think women are so much more. Female sexuality seems so much more nuanced than male sexuality. I kind of think male sexuality is pretty simple, really. I mean, other people may disagree, but I think it's kind of like, yeah, she's cute. Okay, she's good in bed. We can have a nice time together. Okay, fine, job done, right? Whereas with women, there's all of these. There's such a psychological component to the whole thing.
Yes.
I mean, there is a bit for men as well. Actually, I probably like oversimplified it a little bit there. There's definitely. I mean, for example, like say the girl that or my ex, right? So what happened with her was we started, and what I normally do is it's very casual at the beginning. Because I'm just trying to figure out the person, and it's like, okay, so, what's the vibe here? Do we want this to proceed, or how is she behaving, etc., etc.? And we got on really well, and it was clear that there was a really good chemistry there. But at the same time, she wasn't like really trying to push it. I wasn't trying to push it, and she wasn't trying to push it either. So we ended up in basically being in this effectively a situationship for almost a year, and in a way, that actually made me sort of like her more, because I've also been in situations when a woman from the start can be like trying to lock it down and trying to make it into a big thing, and she sort of didn't do that. So it does work from the male perspective as well, I think, a bit, but it seems much more of a female thing that females respond to.
Yeah, because I mean that's very interesting what you just said there about, because you both weren't essentially applying pressure.
Yeah.
And I guess at times maybe you were thinking, well, how come she's not applying the pressure? How come she's not really trying to move it forward? Because usually the women are like, oh, what are we? What's happening? What's the next?
Yeah.
I think that changed, that shifted your thinking and made you feel as if maybe she does not feel that I'm good enough for commitment. And so it kind of made you feel like, well, you need to prove that, yeah, you are that commitment type. You can be that commitment type. And yeah, I can be that guy for you. So it a little...
Yeah.
It gave you
much. For sure. I mean, like, in contrast, like I say, I've had girls where... And this is nothing to do with physical attractiveness, by the way. She could be really, really pretty. But if she's just like... It's like you said before, we kind of want the thing we can't have, don't we? So when and it's a terribly inconvenient part of human nature, but when the girl's kind of a bit bitchy and she's a bit standoffish, I'm not saying my ex was, but like when a girl's like that, that's the one we want. And then there's the one who's being super nice and sending all like heart emojis and stuff. We're like, oh yeah, whatever, But I think women are like that, but on steroids.
Exactly. And what I've realized is that, and this is very controversial, and I know people are going to be coming at me in the comments, but you know what, I'm saying it with my chest because I believe this. You men do not want nice women. Because if you wanted nice women, you would all be married by now. You don't like nice women. It's the same with women. How we say we don't like nice guys, we like good guys. You do not like the nice women because you do not like the woman that is, like doing everything for you, catering to you, always making effort with you, always, never making you question her intentions or anything like that. You don't like that woman, because if you guys did, you'd be with her, because they're out there. The nice women are out there.
No, I take your point, but I mean, do you think that that's all men, or do you think that's a subsection of men who feel that way? Because I mean, you could argue there's probably plenty of guys. There's maybe guys, who are going to watch this later and they go, "Well, I can't even get a date, so I'd be more than happy."
Yeah, of course. I mean, when we speak about this, it's always like the kind of the majority, isn't it? It's like a lot of like, I'm just going by some of the men that I speak to, especially on social media, and the vibe really that I'm getting is that they don't want the nice girl, but they want the girl who's got a little bite to her, which is very similar to what women want from men as well.
Yeah.
But they want to be able to kind of not discipline her, but they want to be able to maintain her. So she can't be too crazy, because then it's just out of control and it's a headache and deal with that. But they want her to have a little something to her, enough for them to be able to deal with it and tolerate.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. And I was having a similar conversation the other night, actually, because it's kind of like, I think it also depends on the type of guy. There are guys who like very, very submissive women. And I think a lot of those guys, maybe they go to places where it's a lot more traditional, like maybe Southeast Asia or, you know, whatever. And they're looking for a very, very, for me, to be honest, that's not really my vibe. I'm not talking about Southeast Asia. I'm just talking about that very, very submissive type of woman. I just find that a bit, like somebody said it in the comments here, actually. Somebody said, I feel half naked, which is a great name. Says, nice girl doesn't have her own opinions. It's suffocating for long term. I like a more balanced woman. So you're right. Like, I like somebody who's relatively submissive, but who also has a bit of bite, and who can also has her own opinions, and she'll push back a little bit, but not. It's you've got to get that balance, haven't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's exactly what women want too. So we're actually not that different from each other. We kind of all essentially do want the same things. It's just maybe men's list is probably a little bit shorter than the women's.
Yeah, because we're more, well, we're just geared more sexually, you know. It's just like, okay, right, she's hot,
yes.
so, you know.
Yes.
So we've got a super chat here from Marriage Causes Divorce. Thank you for sending that in, $5 super chat. He says, and this, I was going to ask you this anyway. He says, as a percentage, how many guys are the complete package? So I think what he means by this, when we were talking about, okay, so he has got the money, he has got the looks, he's also got the riz. Like what percentage do you think of dudes are that complete package? And he says, can you learn to be the complete package? What should the remaining women do? Settle or stay single? So there's a couple of questions there, I guess.
Wow, really good questions right there. I'm going to be really realistic and say the percentage is very low at the moment. And I'm going to say like 10%.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean,
you know, it's that low, because I mean, I speak to people every day about dating, and you know, I get people speaking to social media, and it's a real problem. A lot of women are unable to find that full package, high value man that they want. It is extremely hard.
Yeah, because I think, and then I don't know whether there's situations where the guy can almost be too controlling. So then it's like, okay, he's not a nice guy, but then he's on the other side of it. He's too domineering and so on. And then that can also then be a turn off ultimately as well. Absolutely.
And, you know, we sort of see with these kind of, I don't know what we want to call them, red pill guys, a lot of these podcast hosts, they have the money, but then they lack the other stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that definition of charisma, which was, I forget the lady's name who wrote the book, but it's basically, I think it's power, presence, and warmth. Okay, so you've got power, like you've got the steel about you. You've got presence, you know, you're in the moment, you're there, you're with the person. But there's also this thing about warmth as well. And she argues that that's what makes somebody really charismatic. You've kind of got a combination of those three things. And I think sometimes people, they've got all power, but if they lack warmth, then that can then ultimately it's like, well, it's not quite the full package either. Yes, exactly. Because you as a woman, you want him to be, you want the alpha male, you want the man who's respected in front of everyone else, but you also don't want him to be aggressive. You also don't want him to be cocky. You don't want him to be loud. So confidence is silent. It's subtle. It doesn't make noise. And a lot of these men, they get a lot of money. And so now they think, okay, well, I have that label of I'm a high value man because I have all the money, right? But then they're loud with it. They're loud. They're controlling, like you said. That's the ones that the women don't like. Do you?
So they are singled out now.
Yeah.
You have to understand. They're now struggling too, because the women don't want them.
Well, okay, just pushing into that just a little bit to play devil's advocate. Is that true, or are you just saying that? Are you kind of capping a little bit? Because is it sort of you're saying that because that sounds like the right thing, but actually secretly there are a lot of women who are like, oh, that guy's got that kind of, you know.
I'll change that. So I I still believe that, but I'll phrase that differently. So, okay, they want them perhaps in the moment.
Yeah.
Women are opportunists. So when they see a guy like that, okay, they may know that he doesn't have the qualities that they truly want, but in the moment, he has the money, right? So again, it's going back to the whole, she'll tolerate you because you have the money. But as soon as the next guy comes along, who, he's also got money, he's also making serious money, but guess what? He's warm. He's warm. He's different. She'll pick him. So it's kind of, yes, they will tolerate the rich ones, but they're very aggressive and controlling and have the downsides to them. And they might even stay with them for quite a while, but they will be placeholders.
Okay.
Because essentially, the way that we think as women, we don't see them as marriage material. Those men, we don't put in the category of commitment and husband. We put them in the category of, okay, this guy wants to fly me out. This guy wants to invite me to like a week holiday. It's kind of, women are opportunists. I'm not saying all, but most of the time, depending on your age, you will come across those kind of men, and he's not particularly a pleasant person, but he has money, and so you tolerate.
Well, I mean, just on that point, I mean, there's a guy in my WhatsApp group, and I hear this a lot, who's obsessed with the idea that in London, all women want to be taken out for dinner as a date. Now, I personally don't think that's true, because I've been out with plenty of girls, and we've gone for coffee or we've gone for a couple of drinks. But, like if that were true, I mean, like, to what extent will women? Because to me, to be honest, the thought of going for a 90-minute or 2-hour dinner with somebody, and I'm not really attracted to them, and I think they're a bit, they're boring or whatever. That sounds like a bit of a nightmare. Like, I'd rather just go to, I'd rather just order in from Deliveroo or something. Do you know what I'm saying? So I suppose the question is, like, what is women's tolerance for, like, for doing things sort of transactionally with guys that maybe they're not attracted to, or there has to be, I don't know if you could speak on that a little bit.
Yes. There's definitely like a lot of women now becoming a lot more transactional. I will say that. But that's because they came across men in the past who did, I don't want to say take advantage, but they were men who perhaps didn't have much to offer. But then the girl was basically giving him the wifey benefits. And so a lot of these women have just become tired of being that woman, but not really getting anything out of it, okay? Because the man didn't want to commit. He was maybe as a placeholder. So this is a very, very popular thing that's happened to a lot of women. A lot of women have experienced this. So now they've become transactional.
Or also, do you think it's just because it's become more possible now? Because, you've got an Instagram account, people can hit you up, and it's just become much more. And then, of course, you've got things like the sugar dating sites as well, if you want to go a step further. I mean, do you think it's become more of a thing because of technology? It's kind of like made it easier for it to happen in a way.
Definitely. Technology, social media plays a massive part in all of this. It fuels it, it fuels it because nowadays, as a woman, it's so easy for you to just get access to a man on social media. Just post a really hot selfie, and you've got like 70 DMs. You've got like a guy saying, "Go out to Miami, I'll do this. Hey, you free for dinner this weekend?" It's very, very easy. So yes, women have become transactional. Women have become because the way they think, their mindset is, these men want to use us for our services, I guess you want to call it, and we're not getting anything out of it. So this guy wants to use my energy, he wants me sexually, intimately, all of this stuff, but then he wants to deliver me, let's stay at home and do Netflix and chill. So women are not, I want that anymore. They're like, no, if you want this, I need to see, what are you bringing to the table and earn it.
No, I get that. So there's a super chat here from Marriage Causes Divorce again, $5, thank you. He said, or £5, thank you. He says, is a better, I don't know what you'll think about this, is a better model serial monogamy, moving from golden retriever to bad boy to retriever again as you enter different life stages? Is marriage done? I don't know if he means from, maybe he means from the woman's perspective. Would it serial monogamy for a woman?
I just got the last bit where he said, "Is marriage done?" Is marriage done? Well, I definitely think marriage has lost its value. It's lost its meaning. I think more and more people don't want to get married. I think a lot of men don't see the benefits of getting married anymore.
Yes. Can you see from the male point of view why men are sort of becoming, you know, they're sort of reticent about marriage? Can you or to put it another way, would you as a woman, would you say there are also drawbacks for the woman as well that maybe men don't think about when we're on these podcasts?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because I think with men, obviously they just don't see the benefits in it anymore, because they're like, we lose, you gain. So, and for men, it's such a it's a big thing for them, because they have to see, well, you know, if this doesn't work, we're going to lose, you know, I'm going to lose my wealth, I'm going to lose this, I'm going to, you know, mental health, all of this stuff. So it's a difficult one, whereas the women are like, well, we want commitment, you know, we want that ring on our hand.
Yeah.
So I think it's a difficult one. I would definitely say that obviously women push for it more. And it falls down to security. Women want security. Ultimately, that's, you know, that's really what we strive for in life. So of course the women are going to push that, and they're going to pressure the men for that. But I can completely understand why the men don't want to get married anymore.
Yeah.
Because we see women leaving all the time. Women are always initiating the divorce. They're always the ones.
Yeah, it's like 70% or something, isn't it? Or
yeah,
higher.
Exactly, 70%. Yeah. So it's very high.
And why do you think that is? Because often women will say, yeah, but, you know, that's because the men caused it, or because the men did something. I'm not sure about that, really. I suspect that, although I don't have data, I'm afraid, but I suspect it's a bit more to do with thinking the grass is greener, perhaps. I don't know what you think. Or if you
I feel as if, sorry, I'm just going to go to another room, sorry, just because it's quite loud here. It's fine. You're going to edit this. Are we live, yeah? We're live. Okay.
We're live. Don't worry, though, it's fine.
I'm just going to sit here because it is very loud in there. Yeah, and I'm on Zoom. Right, here we are. Yes, back to what we were saying. Yeah, so I completely understand why the men are, you know, debating whether they want to get married these days. I get it, and I think we always see these women leaving, but you asked me the reason for it, and I feel that, I mean, whenever we talk about this stuff, we have to be very general, and it's difficult. Most of the time, the men are lacking something. So aside from the kind of serious cases, which is obviously like domestic and like that, let's just sort of focus on the behavior and why women choose to leave a man. And I would say it really does come down to the man lacking something. Usually he has very weak boundaries. Sometimes the man is lacking, you know, the financial side of things. I know a lot of women who are really in their masculine energy right now. They're pretty much on survival mode because the man is not making enough, and they've just had enough. They are always working. They're always exhausted. So I think women are just sort of tired of that. They kind of, you know, there's this sort of trend right now going around, the soft girl era. But it's a lot of women.
Is that like almost anti the going out and working type thing?
Yeah, a lot of women now, if you ask them, they would much rather stay at home and not work, but they want to know that they have a man that can take care of them and do that. Yeah.
I don't blame them, really. I mean, you know, one of the problems, you know, feminism has fought incredibly hard for women to go out and work, and now everyone's got to work in these crappy cubicle jobs, and like everyone's fucking miserable, you know. So I don't know. I think as a woman, I don't know. I mean, like I always thought my mother actually has never. Well, with all due respect, Mum, if you're watching, she's never really worked a full job. I mean, she's worked for period, in her own business for periods of time and things like that, and she's done other things. She sells artwork and stuff. But it occurred to me recently, she's probably one of the last of that generation of women who just didn't really it's just they got married and then just were able to do anything. And it seems like the generation since, really, the women have all just gone out to work or been expected to, at least for a period of time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, was it worth the fight, really? I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what I'd do if I was a woman. I think I'd probably quite rather just be sort of like, be sort of looked after by somebody, really, probably. But
yeah. I mean, I get asked this all the time, and I speak to women every day about this topic. And most of the women in my life right now, they would love to meet a man that can take care of them and for them not to work. But because they haven't found that, they're out here working, they have to pay their bills.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say? Look, I mean, obviously, you meet a lot of people. You meet a lot of like high value guys and women and so on, and I'm sure like regular people as well. I mean, what would you say? Perhaps what are some of the major mistakes that you think guys are making in dating now? And what would you say some of the key things that guys should focus on if they want to get better results with women in 2024?
Okay, well, I think men need to sort of, first of all, get rid of this. A lot of men right now, they need to get rid of this this type of sassy energy that they have these days. Okay, I think what's happening is dating has just become so challenging, right, for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's exhausted. Everyone's sick of it. People are getting played left, right, and center.
Yeah.
The men are angry. The women will have trauma, all kinds of stuff, right? And so people have turned really angry and bitter. And so the men have turned very angry and bitter, especially in the social world.
Yeah.
In the social media world. So they've started this whole sassy man thing where it's like, well, what do you bring to the table?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what they don't realize is this type of behavior exhibits a lot of feminine energy. Okay. Because feminine is very much sitting, not doing much, it being in that receiving state of mind, and not doing, if that makes sense. And masculine has always been doing, taking action, coming forward, going after something that you want. And so what's happened now is the balance is off because men have become bitter now. So now they're like, no, we're going to turn it around on the women and we're going to be like, what do you bring to the table? And that's repulsing women. So what's happening? Women are going forward to the men who are the traditional masculine ones who have no issue coming forward being like, hey, I'll buy you this. I'll do you this. Oh, I haven't met you yet, but I'll send you roses to your house. They're picking those type of men because there's like a large pool of men who have become very, sorry to say, but they're giving off very feminine energy. They're questioning the woman about, what do you bring to the table? What do you have to offer? What do you have to do this? And they're not pursuing the woman. Back in the day, men knew that if they wanted to be in the presence of a woman, they had to court her. They had to pursue her. That's just always been the masculine thing. And it's just in their instinct to go after the woman that they want. But now what's happening is with the men, they're not doing that anymore. So now they want the woman to reach out. They want the woman to come after them. They want the woman to plan the date. And this is very repulsive behavior for women. Because women want to be in their soft, feminine energy. They want to be courted.
No, I think absolutely men should be the ones who are leading the interaction. They should be the ones who are reaching out and planning the date and all the rest of it. I'm not sure about the flowers thing. That's the only thing. But I could see that working in some context. I could see that working if the guy is like really high value and it's kind of like, and all of that. And again, this is where there's a lot of black and white thinking, I think, in this space, because there will be people who hear that and they'll say, oh, that's simping. That's simp behavior, right? But it depends on the context because it kind of also depends who's doing it. Right. If you are somebody who is she perceives as high value, already she's going to be like, well, fuck, that was really nice, or that's just how he is. Because and then the whole thing about money, right? Because the guys will also say, well, spending money on a woman is kind of simping, or it's like you know that's what beta guys do because they're kind of having to pay for it and stuff. But if you're a guy who has resources anyway, then what does it fucking matter if you go to a restaurant and you drop a couple of £100 or a few £100?
Yeah.
Like who gives a fuck, right? It's not a big deal. So it's all about the context, isn't it? But at the same time, the only thing I would say is that it also though depends on the masculine energy of the guy, because if you're doing those things, but you're also just doing it in a kind of way that's a bit needy, or you're trying to gratify her, or you're just a bit fucking boring, I think, frankly, then it's probably not going to play very well, right?
Yes, that's it. It's all about the energy. It's all about, so yeah, you're absolutely right. So you could have the guy who's perhaps again, nice guy. He's the nice guy, but he's doing all this. But the difference between him and then the high value man who's maybe got a lot more pride and a lot more respect for himself is that the high value man is like, he will do that, but you can't walk all over him. So he's only doing that to you in the beginning to show you, like, yeah, I am worth your time, but he's not begging. He's not begging you, and he's not short of options. Whereas the other guy, he gives off the energy that he's not in demand.
Yes,
He
and
gives
that's
off I'm just like, I need to be with you, and it's needy. It's needy and it's desperate. And to be honest, humans don't like that. We can feel desperate energy.
Yeah, it's so nuanced, isn't it? And I think, like you said, I think this does apply to both sexes. Actually, I think men actually have a sense of this from women as well, and women certainly have a sense of this from men, and it repels women if the guy's too much like that. But I think the problem, the imbalance comes about because women basically have more options. So you know what I mean? So like, if your inbox is full of DMs every day and there's loads of random guys out there, then women can probably afford to reject more of these guys because it's just like, oh, this guy's fucking, oh, he's a loser, whatever. Whereas maybe a guy with fewer options is like, well, she's a bit needy, but I haven't had a date for 3 months, so what am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? So it's something that, as men, we need to be very like aware of and really act accordingly, I think.
Yeah, I think the top tip that I would probably give the men, like especially right now, if you know they're actively dating and trying to find the right woman, is set boundaries from the start. That's very important to women. So she should never, like I said, she should never feel like she can just walk all over you. And even when you're in the early stages of dating, you can do this. You can do this there's so many different examples, but you know, I spoke to a guy recently. I think I mentioned him on the podcast, the one who said,
he was trying to get you to drop your plans. And
like, oh, women are flying out from Miami and Paris and New York to be with me just for 40 minutes, right? Okay, fine, we'll park that. But what he said that I found was very interesting was that he was like, okay, I've put it out there that I want to see you. I've been trying to lock in a date with you. Fine, we've been doing the back and forth. You're clearly not free. I'm not free. So he said to me, I will no longer be investing any energy into this.
He said that?
But yes, he said that to me.
Okay.
And he meant that. So you've got to be willing to walk away, and you've got to be able to show the woman that you're going to walk away. So
out of interest, did that make you, I don't know if you then followed up or anything, but did that make you think, oh, actually, I kind of respect that?
It did.
Or did you did?
Because,
okay.
Aside from the stuff that he said before, which I laughed at and was like, rolling my eyes at. But afterwards, when he said that, it made me think, oh, maybe he does have options then. Maybe he was telling the truth. It shifts the dynamic, because now you start to, if he's willing to walk away, then maybe I am one of many women. Therefore, it sends signals to a woman's brain that he is, in fact, desirable.
So this is sorry, Karen.
Yeah, go on.
So this is this delicate balance between, you don't want to be like the guy who's like bragging, right? You know, you don't want to be going around saying, oh, I get loads of bitches, or look at my yacht, and all that kind of stuff. Like, you want to kind of keep it low key, but your presence should sort of communicate that without you having to say it. I think that's the thing. One question I wanted to ask you though is so how does a guy show sort of dominance and frame, but without being an arsehole? Because I'm sure you've seen like podcasts and where they say, oh, you know, if she, you know, tell her to get off Instagram, she can't go to the club on a Friday with her friends, you know, if it's a girl's holiday, she's out the door, all that kind of stuff. So where is the line, and how does a guy communicate these things without going too far into the, oh, this guy's just a complete douchebag territory?
Well, it's the same with how you say things, isn't it? It's not so much what you're saying, because it really, in life, in everything in life, it's about how you say something. It's how you say. And I think men are obviously very direct sometimes, okay? And they're a lot more direct than women. Women are a little bit more like, let's sugarcoat things and beat around the bush a little bit, right? Because we always been told that from a very young age. Be nice, we can't be difficult, we can't be a bitch, right? But men are a little bit more like, no filter, direct. I can really just be like, I don't want this, I don't want that. So it's about how you say it. And for example, like if I was speaking to someone and, you know, we were having a conversation and he turned around and said to me, these are my non-negotiables. These are the things that I would walk away. Yeah. Something like that is very powerful and signals to the woman that you are high value, because you have very strong boundaries and you are not scared to walk away.
I agree. I think the issue is then actually walking away, or actually having the ability to walk away. And I think where guys will fall down sometimes is that they don't have the abundance, or they don't feel they have the abundance of other options, and that's when it becomes. But
which
then, of course,
is why they work on themselves. In order to get your, where you can actually say, she's gone, 5 more come through the door. But a lot of men can't do that because they haven't worked on themselves enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of interest, what do you think of the Tates? Have you got, what's your general view of the Tate brothers?
So I agree with a lot of what they say. And actually, they are the type of men that a lot of women would find desirable. Although they say that they don't like them, a lot of women like to trash them, deep down, those are the kind of men that the women are fighting for. Yeah,
that's interesting. Because, well, doesn't that speak a little bit to what I was asking you before, which is like on the surface, well, it depends what version of the Tates we're talking about, because a lot of women would see some of the content, they go, oh, these guys are misogynists, they're arseholes, whatever. But if, I suppose, and that was kind of what I was asking you before in a sense, because is it kind of like capping a little bit to say, oh, women just would disregard those guys? Or is there under the surface actually a sense of, yeah, but he is still pretty hot, I would go there, you know?
But so then men like, you know, Andrew Tate and, you know, these kind of people, the women will be with them because they are the desirable men. Yeah. Because they are alpha, they are dominant, they're protective, they're providers, and they kind of allow the woman to be in her soft girl energy. Like that's literally what they are promoting when they're talking. And, you know, all this content is all about, they want their woman to sit at home and look pretty. I think there was even a point where I think I was watching one of the videos and I remember Andrew Tate saying, I just want to create like this safe space for my woman to feel happy. Yeah. And to like just this free, happy energy about her, so that when I come home, I'm also happy. Yeah. And a lot of men don't like that. They're like, no, she needs to go out and work hard, and no, like I need help and I can't do that. I can't provide that. But that's really truly what women want. They want that man who's like, you know what? Here's money. Go get your nails done. Go get your hair done.
Yeah, for sure. No, because like, I mean, obviously the case is ongoing, putting that to one side, you know, we'll see how that plays out, and the allegations and everything else. But overall, it seems like they were guys who kind of were ticking all the boxes, or really, because, you know, well put together, obviously in shape, obviously with money, intelligent, resourceful. status. Some may, argue about that, but status with literally tick all the boxes. Now, a story that I always tell because I think it's quite instructive is because I met them a couple of times in work situations, and I went to a cigar lounge with Tristan one time when he was in London, right? And he basically sort of had chatted with the waitress, and he ended up getting her phone number. I mean, nothing dramatic, but he was just had a bit of banter back and forward. He gets her phone number, whatever, right? And I think they maybe connected, sometime later when he came back or whatever, But the point is, at no point did he say, "Hey, by the way, did you know I'm a multimillionaire?" Or look at my Instagram, or look at my cars, or look at this suit. It was made in Savile. He didn't, and that was the whole thing. He didn't have to do any of that because it was all implied. It was implied in the energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's what guys need to aim for.
And that comes from being secure within yourself, okay? And obviously money and things like that absolutely add to that confidence and that energy. But I've met people when I've been out who were high profile, and I mean, at the time I didn't know who they were, but I knew they were high profile. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I didn't, this is, I don't know, Donald Trump. I knew he was very important just by the energy that he was giving off.
Yes. And I think
successful men carry that energy around with them. They just have it. It's very natural.
Yeah.
Because the point in their life where they are very secure. They obviously have the resources that a lot of men wish they had.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's two strands to it for me. I think on the one hand, guys need to be trying to cultivate that energy. They also need to be doing the self-improvement, right? So, because let's not sugarcoat it. Obviously, if the product is shit or the product is substandard, then that's a problem. But at the same time, if you can cultivate some of that energy and bring that into the interaction, you don't have to be Tate, you don't have to have a Bugatti or whatever, but it's if you can bring some of that into the interaction, that's going to stand you in good stead, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, I agree with you. You don't need to be Andrew Tate. You don't need to be driving a Bugatti. It's about the energy. It's about that sort of, that strong kind of provider, protector energy that these men give off to women.
Yeah.
And they feel safe.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing, actually, because this is another thing where there's this black and white thinking I've noticed in the men's space, where it's okay, you're either a provider and you're a chump and you're a dad and you're kind of, you're paying all the bills and she doesn't want to have sex with you and all that, or you're this bad boy alpha male and she really wants to rip your clothes off, and you're not giving her any money because you don't have to, because it's all about sexual desire. But the truth of the matter is, really, the ultimate, I would imagine, I mean, I could be wrong, but I would imagine the ultimate for women is the guy who has both. And people like them, and obviously people have got different opinions on them, but they are sort of an example of guys who've kind of melded all of it together. So then the provisioning is not beta in any way. It's not like simping to the woman. It's actually part of the alphaness, because it's hey, babe, don't worry about anything. I've got your back, which, to me seems like a very masculine thing, right? It seems like a very masculine thing to be hey, babe, whatever happens, I've got you, don't fucking worry about it. She still wants to rip your clothes off, but there's also that added layer of that side of it as well.
Yes, but the problem that we have, and I just want to add on to that, that's a huge problem that we face right now in dating, in relationships, in marriage, that a lot of men, and I don't know if it's whether they don't know how to lead or whether they are not confident enough in leading the women. And that is a big problem, because the women want to be led.
Yeah.
They are literally creating space for you to lead them. And they want to see where you're leading them, and they want to see if you have that capability. And the problem that we face right now is a lot of men unable to lead, unable to plan a simple date, unable to suggest, let's go here or let's do this. And that is very unattractive to women.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple of super chats here. So DigiNomad, $2 super chat. My grandpa married grandma at 18, not the streets. Very good. Marriage causes divorce, says $5. Thank you. So this is an interesting. If a wife had the complete package like Tom Brady, Brad Pitt, or Johnny Depp, do you think they would become bored or find something else to complain about? Probably, yeah, to be honest. But I mean, again, there's another issue with human nature.
Probably.
But there's another issue with human nature here, which is, what can you say? I mean, like, long-term relationships are difficult anyway, right?
Are we ever content?
I'm sorry?
I said, are we ever content as humans?
That's the thing, isn't it? Like, I mean, what was I reading about this the other day? But, well, actually, no, it was a video by somebody else, and he was basically, it was kind of what I was referring to before. If you look at hypergamy, it's like, okay, he's ticking these boxes. Okay, Johnny Depp, yeah, he's fucking multimillionaire, he's an actor, he's real well famous, blah, blah, blah. But he's not young anymore. Look at this young bloke over here. He's got that youthful energy about him. Like, Johnny Depp just wants to go home. Like, I think actually Amber Heard was complaining about Johnny. Oh, you're boring. You just want to fucking play shit music with your friends. Like, I want to go out and party, right? So there's always going to be something that's missing, even if you're the fucking elite tier guy, right? So yeah. none of us get a free pass with this stuff, I'm afraid. I don't think.
That's true.
But I don't know, but you're obviously from a relatively traditional background. I mean, have you got any prescription for like a longer term relationship, like how to keep it? I mean, would you be somebody like, right now I'm in it, fuck it, we're doing this for life and whatever, or what's your thinking about that?
I mean, that's really my that's my ultimate goal. But I mean, I'm single because I am looking for something very specific, and it is essentially what we're talking about. It's the one with the whole package. And a lot of women are in the same boat. They are also searching for the guy with the whole package. And what's happening is people, we're getting approached by men who perhaps lack things, and we're thinking, well, we don't want to settle. So for me, yes, I want the happy ending. I want the forever love, grow old together. But it's about doing that with the right person. And unfortunately, I just haven't come across someone who, yes, he has the dominance. He has obviously the financial side of things, but also he's like emotionally intelligent, or he actually has substance. It's not the surface level with him, because most of these men that have the money, unfortunately, they get so used to just being able to give money to women and just not really have to do much. And so you get them ones as well, where it's like, you have the money and you're just very controlling, but then what about the other stuff that I need? Because I need you to be able to have conversations with me that are like stimulating, it's things like that. So yeah, you could say that, I guess.
So it's a pretty tall order, isn't it, really? I mean, would you agree? I mean, some people would say, well, we should just go back to a much more traditional society, or we should just have arranged marriages, and because women's expectations are now too high. I think actually, look, to be fair, I think there's two things happening here. I think that women's expectations are very high now. I think the bar is very high, and that you could say, well, that's unfair or that's unfortunate for guys. But I also think that guys are also often not stepping up to the plate sufficiently. And I don't want to put all the blame on guys, but like sometimes you'll look at a guy's dating profile because he'll send it to me and I'm like, that's fucking shit. Like, why do you expect any woman to want to fucking date you, let alone have sex with you, if that's what you're putting out into the world? Yeah. They don't have the riz, they don't have the energy, they don't have the drive, all of that stuff. So I think there's kind of, women's expectations are high, but also a lot of men, I think they're not really stepping up to the plate sufficiently either. And you've got to really max it out, haven't you? If you're going to sit there and go, oh, the dating marketplace is fucked, and complain about it. It's like, but have you really maxed out in all areas yet?
I think people lack. I think people lack the ability to take accountability these days. I think nobody really wants to take accountability. Everyone's kind of a bit delulu. We're all a bit delulu these days. We're all like, well, it's not me. I'm not the toxic one. I'm not the problem. But really, everybody kind of, if we want to fix these issues in dating, we all need to take accountability. We need to start within. And the men specifically need to get rid of this idea that, oh, I don't believe in therapy. I don't believe in, all this stuff and trauma work and all this. But a lot of men, the reality is a lot of men are carrying a lot of trauma and just these rooted, unresolved issues in their lives. But they think that they just go to the gym and they'll be fine.
Well, that's the manosphere message, isn't it? Basically, just lift, bro.
So I think on both sides, men and women, we need to be actively trying to work on ourselves. I love a man who's on a healing journey right now. I respect that.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you think, though? I mean, what is the best dating advice for women, though? Because I've tried to sort of like give dating. Like the problem with women is effectively often it comes down to, well, maybe lower your standards a bit. But I just don't see that being like I can understand why a woman is not going to want to do that, because you could say, well, look, not to you, but I'm just saying to some random woman in the street. She's like, oh yeah, I want this dude, and he has to have all these things, blah blah blah. And you could say, well, look. And this is actually what Fresh and Fit will often do on their podcast. They'll sort of say, well, realistically, that's actually a very small proportion of the population. Or do you really qualify for that? And, there is this thing of like, well, you need to lower your standards. But is a woman ever going to do that? Like, and why would she want to? That seems like unrealistic as well. Why would she want to shack up with somebody that she's just not that into,
Yeah. Well, that's the... Yeah. You know what? I don't feel like I have the answer, because... every woman is so different. Because for me personally, I don't, settling is not an option for me.
No.
Because I feel like I did that in the past, and I'm obviously single. I just ended a relationship because I refused to settle.
Right.
Although the money and, he took care of me, there were things that were lacking.
And we talked about this the other night, but did you want to say a little bit the kinds of things we're talking about that were lacking?
Yeah, it's pretty much just basically the stuff that we've been talking about this whole time. It's the energy, it's the setting strong boundaries, not letting people walk all over you. Really kind of fixing the people pleasing tendencies that a lot of men have these days.
Yeah. Did you feel like, without getting into details, but did you feel like he was a bit too beholden to some of the people around him? Because when you talk about people pleasing, not just you, but like maybe to his associates or friends and stuff as well, right? Okay.
Yes, the people around him. And that was very frustrating for me. And at times it used to make me very angry. Because I wanted to see him I wanted him to be the alpha male. I wanted him to be the leader of the group. And I know that sounds really shallow.
Yeah.
But when looking at a man that I am going to spend the rest of my life with, this behavior was very important for me. I needed to see that he could lead.
Right, yeah.
That he could, that he's not consoling with his friends all the time, or, it's things like just trying to keep everyone happy. But what about you? Are you happy?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, and it's one I think that gets overlooked a lot. Is it's not just about how he acts with you, but it's also how he acts in the social group. And I mean, would you agree? I've spoken to other women about this, that if a guy is able to sort of command attention within the social group, that is also attractive, right? Like other men, basically, or other people around him.
Yes, that is very attractive, because women, essentially what women look for in a group of men is the one that can protect. And the one that looks like, everybody here respects him.
So how important
when you're the follower, or you're sort of consoling with your friends, or you look weak. And women can feel that weak energy, and we're repulsed by it, because we're like, okay, this guy is not going to be able to be the man that I need him to be. And that's very unattractive to women.
Yeah. Okay. So, and is that why this light switch effect can happen sometimes, where a woman's kind of into you and then suddenly she might lose attraction, and it might be something like that, where she's seen a side of you and she's like, oh fuck, actually, this isn't for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Look, essentially, it all comes down to: are you respected by people, or are you the one running after people? Are you the one seeking male validation? Because a lot of men seek male validation. They want to be liked by other men.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, it does. How important is looks then? Or let's say looks, height, physique. Is that, like, on the scale of things, how significant is that, would you say?
I mean, look, there always needs to be a certain level of attraction for something to. But I would say when we're kind of looking towards like long-term commitment and marriage, one thing I will say about women is that we are willing to settle a lot more.
For the look side of things. Yeah.
Yes. If you can, providing you can provide the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I know a lot of, very beautiful, attractive women who have married men who are, let's say, unconventionally
not great looking, but
not great looking.
Not
great looking. But he does everything else, and he has the energy. He has, he commands respect. He has all these other things, and guess what? She respects him. So women are into.
Yeah, I also think actually even in more like short-term dating scenarios, I kind of think the leeway for looks is a bit lower for guys, actually. I think if you could bring the other stuff, and I'm not saying just take her to expensive places necessarily, but you might be doing a bit of that. You might be showing her a good time. If you've also got that energy and everything else, I think the looks, I think men can probably get away with it somewhat more than women, perhaps. And there's a lot of people on the internet who would disagree. They're like, no, it's all about looks. It's all about, and I don't, that's not been my experience. That's not what I've observed.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know we've been on for nearly an hour now, so I don't know if you probably have.
It's interesting. I am going to have to go because I've got to go have my lunch. But
fair enough. Well, there's one last super chat. He says, marriage causes divorces. If 10% of men are high-value men, are 90% of women in trouble? Possibly, yeah. But, I mean, I think in the end, I think people make compromises, don't they? And, it is what it is, really. But it's just, I don't know. It's been a really fascinating conversation anyway. I mean, there's a lot of nuances here. And, hopefully we can pick this up again at some point.
And people, and the thing is with people, they have things that they're willing to overlook, okay? So, for example, if I come across the guy who is, okay, fine, he is high value. He does, he does make good money. He does have boundaries. But let's say, he lacks something, I don't know, I can't think off the top of my head, something different. I might overlook that. Because I'm like, okay, he's still got the other things, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I think there's always sort of a, there's a bit of a compromise, and I don't know, but things are tricky out there at the moment, and it's good to talk about this stuff.
It's hard out there, guys.
Is it hard for women though? Because people would say, well, you're an attractive woman. You've got it. You're playing on easy mode. You haven't got a problem. What are you talking about? But what would you say from the female perspective?
It's hard out there for everyone. It's really hard. But for women, the reason why it's hard is because women now have very high standards. So they want different things. They strive for better.
Yeah.
And they are leveling up. Women are really leveling up. They're having this glow up. They are, they work on themselves. And because of that, you become this thing called triple threat, right? Or you make money, you're independent as a woman, you're making good money, you look after yourself, you're attractive, you're smart. So it's like, it's too much sometimes. And therefore the men get very intimidated and sometimes would not pursue you.
Yeah.
Happening to a lot of women right now. They're like, well, I'm beautiful, I'm successful, I'm this, I'm that, but I'm not getting approached. So that's a problem that we're facing right now with a lot of women.
Yeah,
so they're like, what do you do?
Yeah, well, someone here's gone, give over, lol. You get to pick. We have to be picked as a guy. I mean, that's true, but I mean, the problem is if you're being picked, but you're being picked by dudes that you're not into, then that's not so much of an advantage. I don't know. It's tricky, isn't it?
Exactly.
I can see it from both sides, really.
Yeah.
We are all operating on biology, and you can't change your innate biology for the things that you desire. That's the fucking problem, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
But anyway, listen, Sukaina, thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome. And hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Thank you.
And where can they find you?
You can find me on all socials, Instagram, Sukaina TV, TikTok, Sukaina Louisa. LinkedIn, Twitter, Sakana Louisa, all of that jazz.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, cool. We'll put the links in the description below.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, and we'll speak again soon.
We'll chat as well about doing more stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll be in touch later. Good stuff. All right.
I'll drop you a message about tomorrow as well.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Well, there you go. So that was quite an interesting conversation, I think. Let's just have a look through. I mean, we've been on for over an hour now. We can carry on for a little bit now that she's gone. If anybody wants to ask any questions or sort of, give some feedback on that, please put it into the chat. Let's see what people are saying. What she's saying is that it can change in an instant, therefore meaning that it can never be permanent. That's heartbreaking as a prospect. I've come to realize that it's only men who love purely. Well, I mean, he's talking about like marriage or long-term relationships and the fact that a man can, like she was saying, like a man can do something and then that kind of puts her off. It gives her the ick, as the kids say. And then suddenly it's like, okay, right, it's over. I'm not feeling it anymore. And that, yeah, you're right. That is a problem. But there are also women that do love very, very deeply, and they love for a long time, and and they will give guys actually more leeway than you might think. It's not just this. It's all about value, right? At the end of the day, it's everything's a value exchange. So her value maybe is her looks and the way that her body and her physicality, and then to do with her the way she comes across, her personality, whatever, etc., as well. But your value is a lot more, as a guy, is a lot more like nuanced than that. There's a lot more strands to it. Okay, but if you're presenting as high enough value in the first place, then she is gonna, and like Sakana even kind of alluded to towards the end, she is gonna let you off. It's not like it's just this right, you've done one thing and you're out the door, if she has the feels for you enough already. And this is why I think, in spite of everything she said, I still believe the most important thing, or at least one of the most important things, one of the key things really to work on, is the vibe, is the riz, is the kind of the chemistry that you create when you're sat in front of her. Okay, because that's the thing often that will really turn the dial. And she was telling the story, she talked about it on the Fresh and Fit show before, where she was with a guy, and on paper he was ticking all the boxes, right? Decent looking, good job, earning money, whatever. And they were meant to get engaged, and she ended up calling it off, right? And why? Because she explained, because he didn't have that sort of that dominant edge that she was looking for, which coincidentally is the reason why that course that I run with James Tusk is called The Edge, because what we're teaching, what we're attempting to convey to the students on that course is this other bit, because people come to this space and they think, okay, right, so it's all about self-improvement. I've got to get jacked. I've got to get a 12-pack. I've got to earn 6K, plus, 6 figures plus. I've got to, do all these things. And yes, all of those things are great, but as has just been demonstrated by that conversation, you can have those things and you can still get kicked to the curb anyway, or not even selected in the first place if you don't have the other element. And I would say, I mean, look, I don't know. I would say the most important element really is the interpersonal thing. It's the vibe. It's the chemistry. It's how you guys feel together. The other stuff you can kind of figure out, because if you find a good woman and she's going to stick with you. One thing I didn't ask her, but I think she said the other night, was there are women out there who will, even if, say, there's a period of time that you're not earning as much as you could be, and you're transitioning into some other kind of business, or you're doing something different. There are women out there who will support that for a period of time. They may not do it forever, but if she loves you, she is, but the reason that she's going to love you ultimately is down to the chemistry, right? It's that desire that you have inculcated by the way that you come across to her. All right. So I would say that is an extremely important thing to work on. That's what we teach in the game space, if you like. And then the other stuff, yes, you should be working on at the same time, sort of independently, but you want to be working on the stuff anyway. You want to be working on your career. You want to be working on, the way that you look, your fitness, being in shape, being well dressed, all of that stuff, right? You're doing that partly for the dating side of things. You're also, frankly, doing it for yourself as well, right? Because, you want to be in good health. You want to be in decent shape. You want to have a good life. Like, whether you get the woman or you don't get the woman, if you've got money, you've made some money from doing something or being in business or, getting a great job, great. You can then, do some cool things yourself. Okay. So, and I suppose that kind of a little bit leads into this idea about being happy regardless. You know, whether she's here, whether she's with you or she's not with you, you can still do your own thing. You're still cool. You've got yourself sorted out. You've got a great life anyway. She is the complement to your life. She is the icing on the cake. She isn't the cake, if that makes sense. Put comments in the chat. Please give me a like as well. We've got 28 people on here now, so give us a like. Give us a like, because it really helps with the algorithm. Good show, says SJ. Thank you, much love. Yeah, I mean, I've known her I've met her a few times on different podcasts. We've kind of been in contact a bit about doing something, and we were on Fresh and Fit the other night, so I thought it'd be cool to, because actually, as I said in the stream, if you watched the stream yesterday that I did, if you haven't watched it, watch it after this. It's or have a look through it. It's the last live that we did before this one. We kind of reacted to Fresh and Fit that I was on and she was on, and actually the story that she told about her ex fiance or ex partner, I think, was one of the most interesting moments actually in that show. And it was a 5-hour show, so there was a lot to choose from, but it was real insight into sort of female sexuality and how women select, right? How women select men. It's this very nuanced thing. What are you doing with her tomorrow? Smash? No. No, we might be doing some other content. That's all. It's purely professional. All right, SJ. So this is a good question. So, what's your approach to dating and fine dining? I guess that you qualified her. Well, I guess after you qualify. Well, when you say qualified her, do you mean slept with her, or? I mean, like, basically the standard advice is always, and has been for a long time, you shouldn't really be going for dinner on a first date. You shouldn't really, and certainly not an expensive, taking her to some super fancy place. Ideally, you want to leave that until after you guys have been intimate. Once you guys are sort of together, she's like a girlfriend, or not even a girlfriend, but you're even if it's casual, whatever, and you want to go to a cool spot, that's absolutely fine. Ideally, you want to leave it until after intimacy. But I mean, in this whole game, there are no hard and fast rules. Okay, I mean, there are various reasons why it may not be the best idea to take her to somewhere expensive, before you got together, because it might just be she's looking for a free dinner. Okay, it might be that you go, and especially if you've met her on a dating app, you don't know what the vibe's going to be like, and you don't really get on, and suddenly you're down 300 pounds, and it was a waste of time. Whatever, right? Also, as well, restaurants are not always, depending on how it's laid out and how the table is and stuff, it's not necessarily always the most seductive place, because often you have to sit opposite her. The tables, particularly like in London, the tables are all quite close together, so you've got people talking on the other side. It's sort of like, it's good to go to a nice lounge bar. You can sit on a sofa together. You can kind of put your arm around her, whatever, right? You can get that vibe going more easily often in like a lounge bar or something. So there's that as well. Having said that, rules are there to be broken. Now, I was talking to Fresh about this the other day, actually, because after the show on Monday, I went off to film something with him, and he was talking about this, and he was saying, well, look, like, you've got the red pill, but he said, listen, I'm aware of that stuff, but I do what I want to do, right? If I want to go to a cool place and I want to take the girl with me, and then I'll do that. But it's because he wants to do it. It's not, and that's the thing. It's about the mindset as much as anything. It's not that he's trying to sort of impress the girl to try to get her into bed by taking her to this super fancy restaurant. It's just that he might want to go to the super fancy restaurant, and the girl's down, and cool. And he doesn't really care whether he gets with that girl. And he's very chill as well. He's like, he doesn't care, right? I get with her, I don't get with her, I don't care, whatever, right? I'm just living in the moment, living my life. If you've got that kind of energy, that's a slightly different thing. So I have sort of softened my approach to this a little bit over the last year or so. And I have been on some dates with girls, and we've been to, some restaurants and things like that, and it's been fine. Things have progressed, and it's been. I don't feel like I've been used just to buy her a meal. That's not happened. Like, the experiences have been good. So you can do it, but I would say certainly for the first date, it's kind of good to not do it if you can, just to make sure that you guys gel and there's a good vibe there. And if you're inexperienced with this stuff, you don't want to be like taken for a ride by somebody who literally is just looking for a free meal. That's not a good energy. Certainly after you guys are dating, like the other night, because it was my birthday, it was me and my girl, and we went to a really, really fantastic restaurant in Mayfair in London. It was actually before the Fresh and Fit show. Fantastic looking place, just amazing looking place, great food, fairly expensive. I don't drink, so that kind of reduces it a bit, but relatively expensive. It was great. It was fantastic, right? And obviously I paid, and I'm happy to do. It was my birthday, but obviously I paid. Happy to do that because it was great for her to have her there, and we had a great time, right? That's absolutely fine. I don't think that you should be doing it to try and impress people or to try and buy people, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, it's nuanced, but hopefully that makes some sense. Hopefully you know what I'm saying here. Right. Marriage causes divorce. High standards and not settling was quite a blackpilling experience. Yeah. Well, I think, the thing is, we all know the reasons for this. Is basically that women have a lot more options. There is less sort of societal pressure for people to have to settle down, or to get. There is some societal expectation about marriage, but it's much less than it used to be. There's there's not really religious shaming or that sort of. So, and we've got the interconnectivity of the internet and social media. There's a whole range of things that have caused the situation that we find ourselves in. But whether things were better in the good old days, I don't really know, because all that would have happened back in the day is you would have got a lot of women married to men that they weren't particularly attracted to, and I would imagine probably didn't willingly sleep with very much, and there were probably a lot of arguments and a lot of very miserable marriages that people couldn't really get out of very easily. So I think to imagine that it was all milk and honey back in the 1950s or even the 1850s or whatever, and there was always infidelity anyway, right? So I'm not sure what the solution is. I know there are people who think that some sort of radical return to traditionalism, and there are obviously the Christ pill people who think Christian traditionalism is the answer and that's going to solve everything. I don't really think it will. I think that because human nature is human nature, right? So even if suddenly a totalitarian government took over the whole world and everyone was just forced to get married to this person over here, and there was no choice in the matter, and whatever, right? And divorce was outlawed. It doesn't mean everyone would suddenly be happy. It would just be it would just be swapping one kind of unhappiness for a different kind of unhappiness. You know what I'm saying? So okay. The 01T said, the lady said women are disgusted by men who don't lead or are disrespected by other men. Would you say it's better for a man to go out solo if he can't be a leader and be aggressive with disrespect? Well, I think if you're talking about going out and doing like game, one thing I would say is if you go out with a guy who is sort of like more socially competent or more socially dominant, and sometimes if he's better looking or whatever, he gets more attention, that's not necessarily going to help you. It might help you because he might be able to open conversations more easily, and then you might be able to talk to the friend, and things can happen like that. But it's often a little bit of a it's a poison chalice, because often what happens is that guy will suck up all the attention and you won't get the attention, and then you're just standing there with your dick in your hand and they're all talking to him, right? Or at least if they are talking to you, they're doing it kind of under sufferance because really they wanted that guy. So yes, I think if you're talking about going out to meet girls, then you need to be careful about who you choose as a wing. And often it's better if you can be the more dominant one or go out solo. That can be better sometimes, yes. So double JBB says there's various things here. Kingdom's Kingdom 1985. It's weird that women are attracted to you more when you have a woman on your arm. It seems like women are never actually comfortable around each other. Men are definitely different in that regard. I'm not even going to read that one. I don't like toilet humor, man. Okay, all right. I think it's got more to do with pre-selection. Women like men, other women want kind of thing, in my view anyway. Yeah, I think pre-selection is very important. Yeah, marriage causes divorce. Sukaina really knows her stuff. Lots of honest info. Yes, I think absolutely. I think so. I think so. And that's why I was trying to sort of not push back, but sort of just question when she said, women don't like these like hyper masculine kind of guys. And I suppose we could use, I don't know, the Tates or some of the red pill people as an example of that. I do wonder if that's true. I think it's polarizing. I think there are some women who would not deal with those types of guys, to be honest. I don't want to use the Tates as an example because that's very polarizing. But if you imagine guys who are sort of very high level, but also quite sort of outspoken and some would say toxic or whatever, right? That might be the female opinion. I think there are plenty of women who, to be frank, wouldn't deal with those guys, and I think it's a bit of a myth to think that all would. But I also suspect that there's a sizable minority of women who, on the surface, oh God, actually, and I heard a story about this the other night, right? So it was funny because somebody was telling me about a girl that I know was telling me about a female friend of hers who is a very, very hardcore feminist, hates red pill content, hates the manosphere, all that kind of stuff. And, very, very, very team woman, very feminist. And obviously hated the Tate brothers. And then she sees a picture of Tristan Tate and she's like, oh, actually, hang on a minute. Yeah, he's not bad. I wouldn't mind, So it's a complicated thing. I think on the surface, they're going to say one thing. It's about what they actually do is where you learn the lessons. But equally, being realistic, I also think there are some women who, if they think the guy is toxic in that way, they're just not going to deal with him, and that's fine. Nobody's going to win 100% of the shots that they take, if that makes sense. Societal pressure, I've never felt that. Well, I don't really feel societal pressure personally about getting married and all that kind of stuff, but that's because I have a very, very odd social circle of people who are living very, very strange lives, and my parents aren't really that bothered as long as I'm happy. And the people that I hang around with are either people who, they're kind of, I suppose they're kind of related to this industry and they are out there doing their own thing, or there are people who are kind of like these at the opposite end of the spectrum, and they're also doing their own thing. And so I don't tend to have lots of friends who are very. And look, what I've noticed actually in London when I was in corporate work, for example, I felt more. I didn't really feel pressure, but there was certainly more conversation about this kind of stuff in the corporate world. It's like, oh, so when are you going to settle down? When are you going to take the plunge and all that kind of thing, from guys as well as from the women. And then, every time somebody got married, it'd be this huge celebration and all the guys would go to the pub and all that kind of stuff, But when you're not in that environment, it depends who's around you. If I was living in a small town and I was surrounded with people that I'd known since school and it was all very cliquey and stuff, it might be different. But I'm not. I'm living in a big metropolitan city. There's 10 million people here. I can walk down the street and for weeks and not see anybody I know. It's a very different, and the people that I guess we attract kind of what we put out. But the people that it's not that I don't know anybody who's married or whatever, but I'm just not feeling that pressure in the way that some people describe. But I think it is there. I do think it is there to some extent for other people. Access allows poor impulse control, though. What do you mean by that? Christ, and then marriage causes divorce. Christ pill means nothing. Bible complains about Eve, Delilah, Lilith, Jezebel's biology is biology. Yeah, that's what it comes down to, and that's what I was sort of saying with her. I mean, it's all very well for guys to sort of saying, well, women should alter their expectations of men, right? Women should know effectively. If you're a woman, you're a 5. You should, look for a guy on your level, and some guys are saying, well, that should be enforced. Almost like that the state should almost step in and regulate the dating market. But you can't go against biology, or at least, you know, you can try, but it doesn't end up working very well because people are attracted to what they're attracted to. I mean, guys are attracted to what they're attracted to, right? It's like, you know, it's just you're trying to do something very difficult, which is you're trying to change human nature, which is just not really something that is easily achievable, and except by force and by pressure and you know, unpleasant legal means and stuff, and even that doesn't often work out very well. So what else have we got? Max Pause, to add to that guy's question, how do you handle disrespect? Perhaps a guy jokingly tapping your bum or putting you down in front of others in a world where the law gets involved if you resort to punch. I don't know, really. I don't know there's an easy answer to that, really. I think you want to present as somebody who as much as you can, to kind of present as somebody who's not like that in the first place. You know, you want to sort of try to, you know, maybe that means going to the gym, or maybe it means doing loads of, you know, combat sport, you know, kind of classes or something. I think you want to initially present as unfuckable with, so prevention is better than a cure, if that makes sense. I think if somebody does do something like that, you can try and turn the tables on them and accuse them of hitting on you. Maybe. It shouldn't be happening, man. And Max Pause, you know, come on, man. You're on here every day. We know that there's a lot of things you need to sort out, man. It shouldn't be happening a lot, okay? If it's happening a lot, then that probably means that you are, the energy, to use that word again, the energy you are giving out is not, is victim energy or vulnerable energy in some way, okay? Because it shouldn't be happening. It should be, if it happens once in a lifetime, or so, okay, fine, whatever. That was a one-off. If it's happening consistently, so it's a problem, then there's something to do with how you are coming across. It might be your physicality. And listen, I'm not a huge bloke. I'm not like some kind of like fucking, you know, like what power lifter or, I mean, if anything, I've shredded down recently, but I mean, this stuff doesn't happen to me. Why is that? I don't know. I don't think I'm not saying it could never happen to me, but it doesn't happen to me, basically. And I think that's because the energy that I give across is that I'm not gonna tolerate that kind of behavior. Okay, so it's mainly, it's not what do you do if it happens, it's like, well, how do you prevent it happening in the first place? SJ, it seems they pick toxic when they're young and aim after 30, and then an ATM after 30, it's cold in the streets. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the manosphere theory, isn't it, really? That obviously, that, you know, women will hit that kind of age, and then they'll think, okay, right, I need to stop messing with these bad boys, and I need to meet somebody who's, you know, a bit more sensible, who can provision and stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is, and this is what I was trying to get to in that conversation with Sakana, they don't really, I mean, yeah, they might kind of want the ATM because that's going to give them a better life, but it doesn't always mean they're going to be viscerally attracted to that guy. And that's the problem, right? That's the fundamental problem that we've been discussing throughout the whole episode, really, which is that women want these different things, and ideally they want them in the same guy, okay? So they want the guy who's a bit of a Chad, a bit of a bad boy, a bit of a this, a bit, you know, like whatever, who's got that risk, that danger, he's less predictable. But they also want that guy who's going to be able to provision and support as well, okay? They kind of want the two things together. And it's very hard, as she was saying, for women to find both of those things in the same dude. So, okay, Max says it didn't happen to me. I was adding it to that guy's question as it may happen, but not yet. Okay, fine. Well, look, I mean, as I say, I think prevention's better than a cure, really. You know, you want to just be like, and look, I kind of accept it. Kind of depends where you live, where you go out, and everything like that. But I mean, you want to, and this is just a general sort of lesson for. She talked about it in the video. She talked about the guy who walks into the room and he commands respect, okay, to some degree. That's kind of what you need to aim for. Now, of course, it depends what room you walk into and who else is in there. Okay, if you walk into a room and Donald Trump's in there, then obviously, you know, the value is there's a very, you know, there's a value differential that's going to be there. But in general, you know, you need to look like somebody who is serious, okay, who's not going to tolerate shit. Not necessarily that you're going to be physically violent, but you're somebody who can kind of handle yourself. You're not there to be trifled with, okay? And generally speaking, that should prevent it happening, okay? And then you don't have to deal with it. Anybody else got any other questions or anything they want to put in the chat, please do so. We'll probably finish quite soon. We've got 14 people in here now, so 14 likes, please, on the video would be great. In fact, I'll write that down. Yeah, we definitely need to get some clips from this episode, because I think there's been quite a few quite useful sort of talking points that have come through on this. And it's always interesting to, you know, to get a woman on and to sort of see what her take on it is. Yeah, you know, I mean, people like yesterday, when we were talking about, you know, Pearl and stuff, people were saying, well, you know, is she, you know, would you ask a fish how to do fishing and stuff? And it's like, well, I take the point. I wouldn't, like, I'm skeptical about female dating coaches, but at the same time, look, I mean, if you can have an honest, objectively as possible conversation, and you're pretty open, and she is cool, and she's happy to have that conversation, I think there is something to be learned from listening to what women say, okay? Even if you don't necessarily agree with everything. Marriage causes divorce. Is Sukaina the complete package? Well, I don't know, man. I mean, she's you know, she's a well put together woman. She's intelligent. She's got good style. I don't know. I mean, she's got a lot going for her for sure. I think it works a bit differently for women, though, right? I don't think women need to be. What does it really mean for a woman to be the complete package? I don't know. And also, I don't. To be frank, I don't know her well enough to really fully answer that question, even if it was appropriate for me to do so. Does Sukaina stay the same while the men have to become the complete package? Well, the burden of performance is on the guys. You know, this is the harsh reality. I mean, women have problems as well, because obviously everyone gets older, and she referred to it herself. You know, sexual market value starts to dip after a while. So women have their own shit, you know. But the burden of performance is, you know, it's generally on the guys, I'm afraid. And, you know, what are you going to do? I mean, we can complain about it, or we can accept it. And actually, you know, James Tusk always says, actually, it's kind of a good thing, right? Because of the nature of the way things are with dating and stuff, we're sort of forced to go on this journey of self-discovery and self-transformation and personal development, which is actually really good. It's good from a life perspective. Like, never mind the girls and the dating. It's actually good from a life perspective as well. So I don't think it's altogether a bad thing, but we need to be aware of this stuff. We need to be aware of the dynamics. DigiNomad, there's a funny Save Me Jesus Homer meme, reminds me of dating. Funny meme is funny. Yeah. Okay. Jackson says, my brother, thanks for this. As a breakdancer and acrobatic, you need to learn your own movement style. I can see that women are very insecure by nature. Isn't it better for them to work on themselves? Well, yeah. I mean, I think women should also work on themselves. I mean, she said that, you know, she paid lip service to that. She said women should also do something. We should all be doing self-improvement, really. It's just that, in general, women kind of don't need to do it as much, because it's a seller's market as far as the women are concerned, right? They're getting the DMs all the time. They're getting approached all the time. Well, not approached probably, but they're getting, you know, hit up all the time by dudes. So for them, it's a bit different. And Myron was talking about this the other night. You can be a relatively average woman, and you can get on the yacht with Drake and with Future, and you can, you know, whatever, right? And that happening the other way round, if you imagine like an average dude, just an average dude in the street getting with, you know, a top A-list celebrity, is just never going to happen. I mean, I was going to say it's unlikely, but it's basically never going to happen, you know. Whereas actually the other way around, it's absolutely possible for a woman who's attractive and whatever, or relatively attractive, not even that attractive, just relatively attractive, to get into the room with some of the top A-listers on the planet, okay? And that is just the reality of things, all right? And there's nothing we can do about it. We just have to accept that's how it is. As I said, women have their own issues. It's, you know, as they get a bit older, then other pressures come into play. But that's just how it is. So, you know, what we need to do, what you need to do is is firstly work on the self-development stuff, but secondly, recognize that what is also very important is what she was talking about, which is the interpersonal stuff. She talks about dominance. She talks about, the guy being direct and having boundaries and setting rules and all that kind of stuff. Are you doing that, or are you turning up on the date and being a bit of a flannel? And if it's the latter, then even if you've got a bit of money, ultimately things may not work out so well for you. So with all of that being said, marriage causes divorce. There's so much fantastic knowledge in this stream. Thank you very much. It was a great stream. I think it was really good. We'll try and push this one out, try and get some clips from this one, because I think it's been some really useful information here. Thanks everybody for supporting. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done that. Give us a like, put a comment in the description below. Let me know, the kind of content you want to see coming up, any feedback, etc., etc. If you want to get in touch with me to talk about any sort of like coaching or any kind of personal work, for us together, drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com. And that's it. I will see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.